Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of the Late Night Lake Show podcast. It is your host, Ricky, Kwame, and Omar. Coming to you guys on another week. Our Los Angeles Lakers are working their way through the regular season. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, and that has led us right into the middle. The Lakers are 11-11. Make a wish coming into the time you guys are hearing this episode. The just came off of a nice win over the Detroit Pistons last night. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook do exactly what you expect that your superstars need to do. Not much help else outside of that, though, which, it kind of seems to be our theme. We can't get all the pieces clicking into place. So we're just going to get into everything so far. Obviously, the Lakers have provided us a roller coaster of emotion, so we're just going to start right there. Fellas, give me one word to describe how this season is progressing so far. After 22 games, Kwame, how would you describe the Lakers season?
Upsetting, man. I think our potential is way higher. I think there's still a lot of potential with this group, but I think the guy at the helm, our head coach, just isn't getting it done. He's not utilizing the pieces that make sense. So I would have to say it's just upsetting at the moment. I mean, our wins don't feel great. Our losses burn. We didn't have the hardest schedule out the gate. We should have had a lot of decisive wins, and we haven't had a single one this season where we won that was extremely comfortable, and everybody's like, that's how we win a game. Even our best games just feel like they almost feel, our wins almost still feel like losses because they're not satisfying. But that's what I would put it at.
No, good point. I mean, the biggest win of the season was a 12-point win at the end of October over the Cavs, 113-101. The Lakers have not cracked 115 in any win this season. So, we'd like to see a little bit more of those scoring outbursts along with a nice gap between our score and the opponent's score. But Omar, I'll toss it over to you, man. One word to describe this Lakers season for you.
Yeah, so the one word that I keep thinking about is just pain. Just being in constant pain over the myriad of issues and factors that have led us to being 11-11. So obviously, right off the gate, injuries have kind of derailed like anything that we could kind of put our minds to in terms of lineups and all that stuff. The coaching is definitely something that we're going to get into later in the pod, but that has led to questionable decision making over there, as well as not being able to string, just consistent effort in terms of defense and offense. So just like anytime we take one step forward, I feel like this season it's two steps back. So that's just basically how I felt so far.
Very well said. To piggyback off of that, the word I was going to use was stalling. And the Lakers season has just been stopping and starting and stopping and starting and not understanding which direction this team is heading. And I guess if you don't know which direction you're heading into, you're not going in any direction, right? So we take a look at this team that's sitting at 500 today with high expectations. We all thought, it would take some time for Russell Westbrook to get acclimated. Another brand new roster to add on to help Anthony Davis and LeBron James on the quest for another championship this year. It was all going to take time, but I think we're seeing some very fundamental things about winning basketball teams and successful basketball teams that we're just not seeing on a consistent basis from this Lakers squad. Last season, while we had an identity that we expected from our Lakers, playing defense, getting out and scoring, doing this and doing that, at the end of the season, the Lakers did not go into the playoffs with momentum. It was very much a stagnant, are they hot? Are they cold? This was a good win. This wasn't. All right, LeBron's banged up. AD's going off, but we're losing. So is that really momentum? And then we saw what happened when we got to the playoffs. Now, 22 games into a basketball season is still very early, but we definitely have enough sample size to pick up on the trends and directions of where this team is heading in their different departments, offense, defense, and coaching. But before we get into any of that, I think the number one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was just the day in and day out effort of our Los Angeles Lakers. This is a squad that frustrates the hell out of us often, whether for stretches, quarters, or the entire game, where we're just like, do these guys physically care about this possession or this game at this point? And obviously they're professionals, but Kwame, what do you attest that to? LeBron James, which you have followed and, been a disciple of his entire career, is known for understanding when it's time to turn it on for the playoffs and what games can he coast through. How do you think, if at all, that has permutated on some of our other players on the Lakers?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I know I've seen quite a bit of that discussion kind of be talking on the timeline and whatnot with just within Lakers Twitter. I'm not quite sure if that's the thing. I mean, of course, LeBron is going to load manage in game and not really do a ton out of the game. But we've been seeing that since about 2015 is kind of where he really, really started doing that. But he turned 30 years old when he started doing that. He hasn't been doing this since he was 26, 27, 24. He wasn't doing this all the time. This is more of a new thing. Kind of once he's seen the mountaintop and has won a couple championships, he's like, you know what? I can't burn myself out throughout the entire regular season. It's 82 games, is a long time, obviously health provided, but still. So I would hope that wouldn't be the case for Anthony Davis. That's probably been where I think the effort's been the most up or down. Like I said, at this point, I think we know what to expect from LeBron, especially on the defensive end. It's just hit or miss, man. And obviously he's coming off an injury, which I think is another thing that kind of gets blown to the wayside. I mean, what is this, his fourth game back from an injury that sat him more of the season that he's played? So I think people got to take that into account a little bit, that he's 37 years old and he's coming off an injury, and he came off an injury last season. So I'm not sure how right his body is. Like I said, I know he takes care of it a ton, but he hasn't been as durable in his Lakers stint as he has been in previous stints just throughout his career. Anthony Davis, on the other hand, like, this guy is 28, prime of his career. This should not be happening, man. I'm sorry. Like, you should not be load managing. I should get 100% effort out of you all the time. And Omar and I talked about this a little bit off screen. It's just that he needs to be our best player night in and night out. He needs to be. He's the only player of our 3 stars that is in his athletic prime. Without a doubt, he's way too skilled. I mean, this is a top 75 player of all time we're talking about. Effort needs to be consistent at least. I know tone setting should come from all the stars, but he should be the biggest one. Offense, defense, he should be the one that carries us. We should not have to rely on the heroics of a 37-year-old LeBron James. At what point are we not going to be able to rely on that anymore? Granted, there's been a ton of flashes. We basically get a flash every game where it's like, this dude might still be the best player in the world, but that shouldn't be what we rely on. This is supposed to be the coming of age where Anthony Davis asserts himself as one of the best players in the league. And he has looked kind of far from that, especially on the effort side. He does put up gaudy numbers. He still does really well, but there's a lot of intangibles there that he's missing. Like, this guy used to be a automatic shot blocker in the bubble. He was sending everybody. If you came towards him, he was going the other way. Now we're watching him get blown by on dribbles. He's settling on offense. There's too many possessions where I feel like he's a bystander when he should be our focal point. He should be our best player. Again, I don't know what that attests to, but his motor has always been a thing for me post the championship. Because 2 seasons ago after the bubble, didn't feel great. This last season, even this season, doesn't feel great just in terms of his activity and his energy. So I hope that's not it. I was hoping Russ would have been that guy to force that out of him, because he's been a higher energy guy, especially these last couple games. We've seen him
or even
everywhere.
Rondo.
Yeah, or right? Somebody just kind of be in his ear, be like, yo, you should be in the conversation of the best player of the world. It should be Steph, KD, LeBron, Kawhi, Anthony Davis, Giannis. That should be the crew. Anthony Davis seems to be very, very far out of that circle as recently. So I'm very curious about him. His motor is, like I said, hit or miss, but I haven't been too impressed with him thus far. Like I said, numbers look good. If you look at the box score, it all looks good, but we see the evidence on paper and it's just not there.
I mean, if we're talking about Jokic, Embiid, and AD, looks like AD is really embracing that J. Cole line where he's just settling into third in this race.
Man.
Like, you look at what Jokic is doing with his superstar down and out. I mean, Kwame's young favorite player, Michael Porter Jr., is not going to be back this year, but you still going to see Big Boy get his buckets and get his numbers and help the Nuggets, still succeed. I wouldn't be, like, Nuggets making the playoffs is still not far-fetched. Why? Because they have Jokic on their team, reigning MVP. So it makes sense, right? And then you look at Embiid. The Sixers are without their other superstar, man. Once again, you look at Anthony Davis, he has always had Russ right next to him. And for everything that we talked about, and we're going to get into Russ in a little bit here, he's been right there as his number 2 or whatever, even with LeBron's injuries. And then when LeBron's healthy, it's got to bro, it's time to eat. But Omar, is this a product of, Anthony Davis just mentally taking, the regular season slow? Is it a product of Anthony Davis, kind of still rebelling against the system in which Frank is putting around him? Or is this just Anthony Davis pretty much just saying, yo, I don't F with Frank Vogel. I'm just going to chill out until we see this thing changes as far as the head coach.
Yeah, I think honestly it's a combination of things. I think AD and LeBron really came into the season thinking they could just coast and just get away with, not really having to put in as much effort as the years past, because when they first came together, they were like gangbusters. Like when that first 2019-2020 season, they were like playing effort on both sides of the ball. And I think they started 24-3 that season. They came out blazing. So I think there's a myriad of issues. I think number one, the fact that we're still going with the two big lineup, plus you have Russ, who's not a threat from the outside, and you have LeBron. Teams are just packing the paint, and it's forcing all our stars to be jump shooters, which is not their strength, right? They can get hot, they can get streaky and start, um, hitting their shots from the outside. But what we really need to do is we need to get AD in actions that get him downhill, right? Get him going early on, right, in the paint. Let him eat and let him live in the paint. But instead, we have DeAndre Jordan out there who eats and is taking baskets and rhythm away from Anthony Davis, right? So I get it, right? If I'm a coach and I see that Anthony Davis is not really engaged, fuck it. Let me bench DeAndre Jordan, start AD at the 5, and like run the first 5-10 actions for AD. Hopefully that gets him going, right? If he starts seeing the ball going in, I'm pretty sure, I guarantee you, he's a basketball player. He's competitive, right? Once he gets the juices flowing, he's just going to keep eating as the game goes on. And Russ will see that, LeBron will see that. Everyone's just going to feed off of that, and that's how. The idea is that when the stars are, giving their all, the role players just kind of fit in and find their slotting appropriately. So I think, if AD gets the appropriate offense run through him, and seen as that number one option, because that's what, the coaches for Jokic and Embiid, they aren't playing with another big. They're playing with like floor spacers. They get the ball with ample space and they can do whatever they want. And I think we need to design an offense where, we're running like just simple, run a pick and roll with LeBron or AD and have AD drive as hard to the basket and, get easy baskets that way. Either it's a lob or it's like a quick like hook shot. Let's stop, using him as pick and pop, unless he's had a few, layup or dunks, right? If he's got his rhythm. On top of that, I need him to work on his free throw shooting, man. I don't know where that's wrong. The free throw shooting it's somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. But I think building that rhythm early on will definitely help his jumper and his free throw shooting. So I think, that's something that I know, again, we're just going to come back to it again, but the coaching needs to identify these things early on and make adjustments. And what we're seeing game to game is we're seeing adjustments not being made, and the other team makes adjustments at halftime, and we're the worst third quarter team, and that's because we don't make any adjustments.
I do have a
No,
question
it's
though.
nasty.
Is this Anthony Davis's reluctancy to just playing the 5? So when we talk about his peers who play the 5 fairly often, Jokic and Embiid, even Giannis seems to have embraced it a little bit more, obviously with Brook Lopez being out. Is this a more of an Anthony Davis kind of, is he co-signing Frank's decision to start 2 bigs? Because I feel like if he's like, bro, start me at the 5, I mean, do you really object to your star like that? But we remember when DeAndre Jordan was brought in, what did he say in that press conference? Thank you, Frank. Or
Thank you,
Rob.
Frank.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
And, he was a key component to bringing in Andre Drummond. I don't think he's really embraced being the 5 man. And I don't know if that attributes to maybe just how he feels as a player. He doesn't want to have to do the dirty work because the 5, you're the anchor, the only anchor. Maybe he doesn't like having to do that as much. I'm not sure. I think it works really well for his offensive game. But we saw when he's the 5 on defense, we look even worse, to be honest, because it's either he's not securing the rebound or he's pulled out to the perimeter by a stretch big or because he's guarding a different player. It didn't really look as great. I remember after the Pacers game, I text Ricky and I was like, look, bro, is LeBron at the 5 our best center? That shouldn't even be a thought, man. Anthony Davis should be the best center on the roster by a mile. They just literally ran out of big man or like, I guess LeBron, you got to do it. And we won a game because of it. And it actually looked really good. LeBron was out there calling sets, boxing out. Why don't we get that same effort from Anthony Davis when he plays the 5? That's where I start to get in question with a lot of these things.
He doesn't want to play it. I mean, he is at best reluctant, at worst objectively opposed. I saw what was like a Jimmy Kimmel interview where he like first came into town, and he said he used to lie about his height after he hit his growth spurt because all 6'11" folks would be moved to center. So he used to lie and say he was 6'10", and it's like AD, like what is this psychological? Like, is there something that we need to talk about? But like, dog, you're a giant. Like, get over it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how many, all the skinny jeans in the world can't make you shorter, my man. There are some things that, at the same time, if he doesn't have that in his mental at this point, I don't think he's going to develop. I think LeBron, even at early in his career, LeBron kind of had that Magic Johnson mentality of, look, I don't care where you put me on the court, point guard through center, I'm going to thrive in that position. I think AD very much wanted to be more Kevin Durant than, Shaq. I think he wanted to be more of a shooter than even a guy who had the mix like an Hakeem. You know what I'm saying? Hakeem had that inside and outside and that face-up game, just shooting over folks. Like, I would think that would be the model. And oftentimes I see AD out on the perimeter kind of taking that deep jumper, that long 2 or that 3 earlier in the shot clock. And it's like, bro, there are possessions that you're being switched onto. And yes, you're at the perimeter, but that don't mean just shoot over them. Like, punishment is a thing in the NBA that needs to be exploited more when you are the more dominant athlete.
Like there's Terrence Davis, who's like 6'3", 6'4", who's guarding from the Kings, who's guarding AD. Like, that's a time where you need to like understand the situation and just bully ball him to the rim. Get yourself to the free throw line. Get a dunk. Get a layup. I think something Kwame and I were talking offline is that, okay, if you want to be like a KD type player, whatever it is, you need to figure out at least a go-to shot. Like, figure some action or figure some sort of move, right? Like, all these great players, they have a go-to move. Like you mentioned, Hakeem, he had that footwork going, and he could get like a fadeaway, whatever. LeBron has his like the fuck you 3, you know what I mean? If he really wants to get that in, among other go-to moves he has, right? But like, for me, like, if you want to play the 4, that's fine, whatever. I know he's gonna play the 5 when it matters the most. I don't have an issue with that. But for me, at least,
bro.
no, I'd hope too. But for me, at least, like, let's get a go-to move for you, like, that I know, like, 8 times out of 10, like, I have a good feeling that shot's gonna go in. And something like when you have LeBron and Russ and all these guys on the floor, there should be no reason for you not to have a go-to move. Like, I don't want it to be like the fadeaway, these tough jumpers, they don't work. I mean, sometimes they'll go if you're hot and you're feeling it that night, but there's got to be something, like, there's got to be some sophistication to the offense where, like, this is an action that you just can't break down. Like, there's just, you have too much star power out there for that not to happen. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that, in this weird phase that, like, AD's still kind of, I guess he's 27, he still hasn't figured out how he should be playing. He should at least have a go-to move or a go-to shot. I think that's very, very important, and that's going to be key for the playoffs, because defenses are going to be able to figure us out otherwise,
Yeah.
No, that's such a great point, man. You look at, even out of the non-shooting superstar and the Lakers trio, we all know what Russ's signature shot is. That odd bank shot that only Russell Westbrook looks at and goes, "Oh yeah, this is cash." Like, it's that is such a great point, man, because I'm just thinking through AD's Rolodex, and like, yes, there, for big men, it's hard to have an outside specific shot. Like, the skyhook's never going to be remastered again, right? But you look at how Hakeem had his dream shakes, right?
Exactly,
You couldn't guard that, bro. On top of that, he had his face-up game, right?
Mhm.
On
Yep.
top of that, he could take you off the dribble. On top of that, if you leave him open from outside, he could do it. But fundamentally, if his back is to you and you're within X feet, you're cooked.
Yeah,
You're
Oh yeah.
dead.
seriously.
Yeah, and then he could pass too. So like if you doubled him, then he's gonna he's gonna make the right read every single
Oh,
time. So
boy.
Talk
like
about it,
there should
Omar.
be
Let's talk about it right now. Anthony
Yeah.
Davis's passing out of the double, hell, out of just very good defense. Right?
Nasty.
What are we doing with that? How are we taking this all in, y'all?
I don't
bad.
know. It's there's such simple fixes that you can implement to make his life easier. Number one, goddamn, you're like 7 foot, so like just stand and hold the ball up and just like survey the floor. There's like literally usually like power forwards out there guarding you because so many teams are playing small nowadays. So like just face up and just read the the floor and just like make the right read or the easy read. But instead, sometimes he just feels like he needs to start dribbling, and oftentimes because he's so big, a smaller guard can just put his hand in there, and the ball like hits his foot and goes out of bounds or whatever. Or just have like LeBron or like Russ or like Melo like right there, so it's like an easy like safety valve, and you just pass it out. But I think Kranjis has talked about it a bunch on the timeline, but there are easy fixes to implement. Like if you are going to go to this post up like heavy offense, there's like off ball actions that you can easily run around AD to basically damage like any of the defense that AD is going to see. But why would that doesn't happen, I don't know. I think Kwame can help answer that question.
I don't think I can answer, but the problem for me is that I think Anthony Davis, a lot of the beginning of his career was spent guarding or playing against opposing power forwards and centers that had no business matching his physical tools in terms of quickness, speed, any of that. The way the league has shifted, they're getting away putting short people on Anthony Davis, and he's not always abusing it. And that takes away his point guard skills that, he so has, his guard skills. Because if you put the ball on the floor and the dude guarding you is this shifty 6'5" dude, he's not going to let you do it for free. You're not going to get to where you want to get to facing up a 6'5" small forward. It's just not going to work. Where you can punish him is your back to the basket, drop step, hook shot, whatever. He's making it too easy for smaller players to be able to guard him by leaving the ball low. To be honest, how he's been playing, numbers aside, reminds me a lot of Porzingis. A dude that's tall as hell that plays like a guard. He just wants to shoot. He doesn't post up. He's not blocking the shots he should. He's not defending at a high level. I get that feel from him. Obviously, it's not to the extent, but that's what it's starting to become reminiscent of. They literally throw like shooting guards to go guard Porzingis because guess what he's going to do? He's going to go stand at the top of the key while Luka dances. You don't need anybody special to go defend that. And I feel like teams are starting to take that approach with Anthony Davis. It's like, hey, just put somebody that's semi-strong that can move his feet well in front of Anthony Davis. We'll live. If he scores in the paint, we'll live. Because at some point, he's going to have to go back to that jump shot. Now, who's going to be able to guard all that pump fake jab step? A 6'5" player, not a 7'2" dude. So I feel like he's got to be able to adapt with the defenders guarding him and his reluctancy to do that because he's just going to his bread and butter. And like I said, that worked really well when you had traditional bigs guarding him. Sure, if you have, Jokic guarding him, he's going to torch him. But, you throw Jeff Green on him, it's not going to go the same way. And I think that's where the league is starting to move. So he's going to have to figure it out because his jump shot is cold as ice. I'm sure he had last night where he started to get a little hot with a couple jumpers, but that's a small sample size that doesn't necessarily, exclude everything that
two
we've seen
3-pointers.
prior. Exactly. 2 3-pointers, that doesn't save us. But
you said somebody better go play the lottery now, shouldn't they? You said that on the account.
Man. You better go buy some lottery tickets.
Go buy a lottery ticket.
That's not a common occurrence, but that's just the thing for me is that Anthony Davis just needs to find ways to still be Anthony Davis with these new defenses guarding him. Again, he shouldn't be able to be guarded by somebody 6'5". Never. He should eat these people. But he's shooting jumpers over a 6'5" guard. Sure, you're not getting a hand in your face like a 7-footer would, but at the same time, you can't use the tools that made you special against these matchups. It's not the same mismatches he was seeing early in his career.
You know what's funny? He actually put on weight coming into the season. I think he put on like 15, 20 pounds of muscle.
Now he's just fat.
What?
Now he's just fat.
Wow.
What,
Swole
what is it
AD.
for?
So I said
Ricky,
this on
what
the
is it for?
timeline, right? It was supposed to be for more durability throughout an NBA season. So a lot of players bulk up in the summer and then they gradually get skinnier throughout the year because you're running miles on miles every night, right?
That's
And you
fair.
don't have much off time. So they
Okay.
put on a little bit more weight. What I think, and there was some before and after photos of AD last summer and then coming into this summer for media day is when I played football back in the day, they had my ass lifting like heavy, and then I had to go for football, and then I had to go to basketball practice. Whatever remnants of a jump shot that I thought I had in high school quickly went away after I started just adding muscle onto my body. Now, obviously, Anthony Davis has had years and years and years of perfecting and working on his craft. But what Anthony Davis hasn't had is years and years of a mass bulk, which seems like was the concentrated effort this offseason, probably since the Pelicans were like, bro, or the Hornets at the time were like, bro, you're super skinny. Let's get some muscle on you.
Right.
It's an adjustment to adding on a lot of upper body mass. And, I'm not saying that this is a direct excuse for AD. I think there are just combinations of the mentality of I'm just going to shoot the jumper, right, when I could be using this newfound size to bully other players. But like we said a little bit earlier, y'all, I'm starting to wonder if AD is getting a little bit of a little allergic to the free throw line since he's not having as much success, right? I don't want that to be true. I'm just wondering if he's reluctant to get there and get dirty in the paint, force these mismatches to get into foul trouble, right? Then turning around, and when he does go to the free throw line, I don't want to talk about it, shooting around what I predicted this year, what he would shoot from the free throw line. And I'm wondering if that's starting to now just be a cycle of, I'm not doing too great. Let me just, I need to work on my jumper. Let me get these jumpers down because if I go to the free throw line, it might, 1 for 2 is getting more likely than 2 for 2 these days. So
it's a good point. It's all mental.
It's all mental, right? At the end of the day. And this is how we started, and we'll wrap this segment, right? Is the Lakers, they're in their head. Kwame, what'd you call it? Self-inflicted wounds, right? They are doing it. Thank you. They are doing it to themselves. And I think the head of the snake, outside of the players, which we talked about LeBron and we talked about Anthony Davis. We haven't talked about Russ, which we will after the break. But the head of the snake of what a lot of fans think is the root cause of the Lakers' struggle this year is Frank Vogel. Probably some of y'all were expecting this to be a Frank Vogel firing reaction episode by this time. It's not, but we're going to talk about why that may not be the case coming up here soon if the Lakers continue to be stagnant. Late Night Lake Show. We'll be right back. Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's Ricky, co-founder of Late Night Lake Show. Just stopping by to let y'all know about a new sponsor that you guys are going to absolutely love. For the first time, the Late Night Lake Show is going to be powered by Symbol. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, what is Symbol, you ask? Well, I'm about to tell you. Hang on. Symbol is the stock market for sports that allows you to profit off your sports knowledge. On Symbol, you can trade sports teams like stocks, and every time your team wins, you earn cash. You like that? Okay, get a pen and pad out, get your phone notes up, get to typing. It's about to get good. Use your sports knowledge on Symbol to buy low, sell high, and earn cash payouts when your team wins. Join 7,000 early adopters who have started to invest in their favorite teams already. Visit www.simbull.com/LNLS. That's short for Late Night Lake Show. To create a free account, and when you deposit, make sure to use that promo code LNLS to get free $10 bonus. How great is that? Use that $10, invest it in your Lakers, invest it in our Lakers. Everybody talking about how things are all doom and gloom. Guess what? Lakers stock's a little low right now. You invest, watch that start to tick up. LeBron come back, that stock's gonna shoot off. You made a few dollars just by not freaking out and trusting the vision of the Late Night Lake Show and our Los Angeles Lakers. Oh man! All right, so I don't like using the word hate on this podcast besides talking about the Celtics or the Spurs because they deserve it. But I think Laker Nation is starting to get into the hate Frankie Smokes camp. Now, we've heard a lot of, a lot of rumors that this last road trip was the straw that broke the camel's back, and they didn't do too much to prevent a firing. But here we are. It is Monday, November 29th, year of our Lord 2021, and Frankie Smokes is still the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Why is an interesting conversation, but I think more so we should talk about why he deserves this type of scrutiny, slander, and people calling for his job. Omar, if I see DeAndre Jordan in the starting lineup again, I might be thinking about 10 to 15 myself. And if I can do that, time served, because Frank Vogel really starting to piss me off with some of this decision making. So what about these lineups is most infuriating to you, brother?
I think it's the fact that we are starting two players that should not be on any NBA roster, right? The Nets, I don't know what they gave up. They actually paid, I think, the Pistons to basically take DeAndre Jordan's contract. Number one. Number two, Avery Bradley was on the Warriors. Both, by the way, Nets and Warriors contending teams that cut Avery Bradley because they saw no purpose in keeping him on their team. We're starting these two guys that are, I think Bradley's playing around like 28, 32 minutes, which makes no sense to me when you have all these other guards. And then DeAndre Jordan, I think, is playing around like 15 and then 20 minutes last night because Dwight Howard got the rest. We're shooting ourselves, like as soon as the game starts, the other team goes on this big run. They get their rhythm going. They find their shots. They get easy baskets because the lack of activity from DeAndre Jordan. Like we've hammered this so much. Like DeAndre Jordan shows no activity. He can't get boards. Like literally, when a guard comes as he's boxing out, if someone just pushes him out of the way, he loses his positioning, and then the opposing guard gets the rebound. There's like multiple possessions that they get that just kill us on defense because we need those defensive rebounds because we already suck on defense right now with that starting lineup. And then on top of that, Avery Bradley, he fits the scheme of funneling guards to the two big lineups, but DeAndre Jordan isn't an effective big right now. Like I think if we had JaVale McGee, as crazy as this sounds, if we had JaVale McGee back there with Anthony Davis, Avery Bradley would do his job. But he's not, he can't do that because DeAndre Jordan is not an NBA player. And the other thing is Avery Bradley is not giving us anything on offense right now. He's had one or two nice games, right? But there's got to be a short leash on him, right? Like we have Malik Monk who's been playing phenomenal. Like we have Monk propaganda that Guru Lakers, shout out to him, has been running since the offseason. Hopefully we get Kendrick Nunn back soon. We got Reeves. Like these guys should be getting minutes over him. And I don't know what it is. Vogel must have, these guys must have something on Vogel where he has to play these guys. I don't know why. It makes no sense. Like everything, the eye test, the data, analytics, everything shows you that these two guys are negatives as it comes to these games. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Kwame?
No, I agree with you 100%. Literally every word of what you said. The eye test, the analytics, the data all tells us that DeAndre Jordan, Avery Bradley are like negative net players. They are not doing what we need to. So everything good we do, like I said, Frank is self-sabotaging by inserting those players back in the lineup. We literally saw it last night. We go up 19 points, and what does he do? He goes back to a too big lineup, and we piss away the lead per usual. It's like every time we do something good, Frank comes in with his lineup choices and detonates it all. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's just really starting to get frustrating at that point. But like you said, DeAndre Jordan, we've talked about it many times. When he's the player on the court, he's the only one who eats. If anything, his activity is meh. On the defensive end, he'll grab rebounds literally because he's tall. He'll block a couple shots literally because he's tall. But what was it? 2 games ago, how many passes did we watch these guys throwing? Oh my god! Just dropping them, rolling right out of bounds.
3 or 4 easy dunks that he could.
It's like, come on, man! Like you can't even catch the ball at the bare minimum.
That would have decided the game too against the Kings. Like seriously.
All we need this man to do is catch the ball, dunk, grab rebounds, block shots, and have some sort of defensive activity. He's doing like one of those things, and it's dunking. It's not even always catching the ball; it's dunking. So for me, I don't know if there's really much more needs to be said about DeAndre Jordan himself. But yeah, totally to your point, Omar. Avery Bradley himself. Sure, Frank loves him as the point of attack defender, but I mean, I think he's kind of even fallen out of the focus of the league and what it needs because he's short, man. He's like 6'2", bro. Like a lot of guards these days are bigger, like point guards. Like when he was going against Cade was sauteing this man because he's what 6'6", 6'7".
Yeah,
he's shooting
big.
right over this guy. He doesn't care. Dude's just little. And again, Avery Bradley competes, he tries, but I think there's some physical limitations there. Age is a little part that's settling in. And again, on offense, there's a lot of nights where he's giving us a whole lot of nothing. He can space the floor, but if nobody's really worried about Avery Bradley going for ripping off 5 threes. Yeah. They're like, whatever. Yeah. If he makes 1 or 2, we'll live because we're gonna chew him up on the other end. So it's like I don't really see why he's getting the minutes he's playing, and he has the most. I don't know, like he must have dirty pictures of Frank and his wife. Something It makes no sense because his leash is longer than a mile. But let Malik Monk throw 1 turnover, he's yanked. He's out the game. And that's the thing where it's frustrating. It's like, come on, Frank. Like, you got to see what players are giving an impact and what aren't. Sure, Malik Monk can be, a little lost sometimes on defense. Yeah, THT is a straight space cadet on that end. But, like, you're trusting these guys who really aren't doing anything either, and the data behind it shows. And then he's got the audacity to step up on a podium and sit here and say, our defense is better with DeAndre Jordan on the court. But every single thing, the eye test, analytics, all of it.
That is a lie.
Everything is telling us that is not true. But he's sticking to his guns, and he will literally die by the bullet before he has a realistic lineup change. But again, we're all sitting here hoping and praying that when Trevor Ariza comes back, if he ever does, damn it, that he will be the guy inserted in the starting lineup and will finally get the lineup that we want. But hey, I don't know, man. I don't know if we can trust Frank to do the right thing. So
I can't trust him anymore.
I have no faith in this man.
I have no faith in him.
Has fallen out of favor with him because, like last night, our stars probably played as perfect as the games you can get from your big three, and we're still struggling.
We won by 4 points
against the Detroit Pistons. That should not happen, man. And like I said, it comes to the self-sabotaging of the coach. So, Frank, hey, man, it was fun. Appreciate you for Banner 17, but you got to go, bro.
It got to go. We watch and we see what in the equation for a successful Laker team and basketball game looks like, right? It is running around like chickens with your head cut off on defense, swarming, fast defense, right? Anchored by LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Once you get a stop, right, it is fast break time. It is showtime. And we see glimpses of that. We saw that LeBron AD alley-oop last night, and I was like, when's the last time we saw something that goddamn exciting on both parts? LeBron freaked it, right? And then AD finished it. And I was like, this is the content that we should be jumping out of our seats about. And we should have this multiple times a game. You throw in Russell Westbrook, who, by the way, is having a very, very, very nice stretch of basketball. Everybody knows that nice picture, that graph of Russ throughout an NBA season of this is the worst basketball player in the world to, oh, we might have something here to this is the greatest basketball player in the world, right? People are saying we're getting to we got something a little bit sooner. And it's great to see how Russ several times last night had either younger or just overall smaller defenders. They might have been taller, but they were smaller than Russ as far as size and strength. Russ just dominated them. He said, I'm not shooting the jumper here. I'm getting to the bucket, and you're going to feel me. That is the beauty of this Laker roster. And then we have the ability of some shooters. We have Malik Monk. We have Wayne Ellington. I'm not going to talk about the boy from Golden State who should be riding the rest of the bench for the rest of his life. Kent, the next check you pick up, brother, why don't you donate it to the Late Night Lake Show shop? We'll send you out some merch, but maybe we need a ride the bench coffee mug for Kent Bazemore. I don't know why you caught that straight. But anyways, we know what successful Laker basketball looks like, and we just see it so infrequently. A lot to do with the players that are put together on the court. You can't run out on fast break if it's DeAndre Jordan and Anthony Davis all the time. That just can't happen. LeBron's not sprinting every fast break these days, right? Like if it looks like there's some numbers, he's not doing the trailers to off the backboard as much, right? So that leaves two players, Russell Westbrook and THT, whether it's Avery Bradley or whoever, to go out and run. That's just not going to work, man. We talked about with the equation that works. LeBron, AD, and a bunch of boys that just like getting out there and running around. And we can figure out how to make them unified defensive players. We could see it in stretches where Malik Monk is like, Malik, that's you out there. You rotate. I see you, big dog. Hey, keep it up. No, don't look at me. Get back out there. You got it. Right. You got it. We'll go get Olive Garden after the game. But I see you, dog. But it's going to end up falling at the feet of Frank Vogel if something doesn't happen. So the last question of the day before we get out of here, fellas. What's the deadline? If we still are looking at a 500 basketball team, by what date are Rob and Jeannie and Kurt and Linda and I don't know, I'm sure Magic will get a call or some stupid shit like that. What date will Frank be given his walking papers?
I think January is the hard deadline. I think if you go into the new year, that's gotta be the hard deadline. This team hasn't seen, a crazy resurgence, or we went on that fabled Anthony Davis 10-game win streak by then or something. If we don't see something that resembles a championship level team on a consistent basis by January, so basically we just got this month of December coming up. So it's not a lot of time. Yeah, it's not a lot of time. So we basically have 1 month for this team to appear, or I think Frank's got to go. You can't wait too late in the season because you got to overhaul everything. If there's an adjustment period, we can't do that when we're already in a hole. You know what I'm saying? We can't be 6 games under 500, expect the resurgence, and finish as the top 3 seed. Like, finish anywhere, We're not trying to see the play-in. We're not trying to be that team. We're trying to compete for a championship. Our goal isn't to make the playoffs. Our goal isn't to make it to the second round. Our goal is to win a championship. So if there's an adjustment period, it's better to do it sooner than later. Again, there may be many things that are wrong with this team beyond just simply the coach, but I think that's the easiest, and I think that's the first step that needs to happen. Again, give yourself enough time, because if you get rid of the coach, you bring in a new coach, team still isn't responding well, personnel isn't fitting, then you have the deadline to fall back on. But you don't want to wait too long, and then you're stuck with the coach, and then you got to try and blow everything. Like, that gets messier, if you ask me. Again, for like Alan had said in our last podcast, if you haven't checked that episode, make sure you guys check that one out. There's a ton of things that Frank does well, but he needs it to be situational. If you can only thrive with a specific type of player to make your system work on the defensive end, you can't call yourself an elite coach. You were just a fortunate coach, and you just had the perfect personnel. If you can't get that personnel for Frank, you have to move on from him. It's just not going to work. So for me, I think January is the hard deadline. If he makes it past January, fellas, I think we got to buckle up and just take that one to the chin. And I think we're stuck with Frank for the season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be earlier. So I think I'm just looking at the schedule as you were just ripping off all those points. So I think Christmas is the target in 3 of the 4 of the games. So we're going to play Brooklyn Nets on Christmas, and we're going to play the Suns and the Chicago Bulls leading up to that Christmas game. So that does not sound like a fun schedule, at least with the current state of affairs and how the team looks right now. So if Frank doesn't pick it up here and things are kind of, the ship is kind of in the middle of the water, I think things are not going to be looking too good at the Frankie Smoke household come Christmas time. Because, man, those are some good ass teams that we are not ready to face, because Phoenix has just won 16 in a row, something crazy like that. And you know how Suns fans would be talking on the timeline as if they won the championship last season. They've been really good. Their team is it's a well-oiled machine. And then Brooklyn has been really good. They're missing their Kyrie, who's like a top 15 player, and they're still, firing on all cylinders. I think Christmas is the time, honestly, guys. And if we don't make if we don't cut bait, then I don't know when we do that. And I think we're just going to have to, take it to the chin, like you said, Kwame, because it's going to be tough. Otherwise, I don't know who we replace him with, honestly.
Well, I mean, the replacement is sitting on the bench for the Lakers. I think they'll hand the keys over to one of the assistants. I just just to keep things in context, right? 2015, David Blatt was let go by the Cleveland Cavaliers after a record of 30-11. He got his walking papers after 41 games and a 30-11 start. Now, obviously, that had more to do with personality clashes with the king, but
Right.
I think it's just interesting to see how much rope some coaches are given when they're fired in season that have championship aspirations. So I think Phil Handy is right there. I think, however you feel about Fizdale, he has head coaching experience. So instead of bringing someone from outside in, the keys would probably get passed to one of those two guys. And, Phil, a amazing player development guy, skills guy, coach, leader, right? Head coach. This would be new. And you know what? Hey, at this point, right, it sounds like we are all approaching the destination of anything at this point would be better than Franklin Smokes. Agreed?
Yeah, man.
Agreed.
You know what's
We're
crazy,
already there.
The fact that we just went on this 6-game run where we literally played the Pistons, the Knicks, the Pacers, Kings, Pistons, and then we have the Kings again. I predicted that we were going to go 3-3. We just picked up our third win. We got one more game to go. Can we really end up going 4-2 in this road trip? Or I guess not a road trip, but this stretch where we played really like no good teams.
Yeah.
And one of them was a hero saved by LeBron James.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, this is what happens when you are an inconsistent ball club.
Nasty.
Basketball, they'll creep up on you, man. Like this professional sports, you feel me? Like if you just aren't put together and there are folks that look at your team and circle it on the calendar, this is exactly the recipe that you're going to get. Who doesn't love playing the Lakers? Who wouldn't want to play in LA? And we're sitting
on
up
national TV.
And on national, and we're sitting up here talking about, maybe the kids coming in got a hangover and playing the Lakers. It shouldn't take all that, man.
We should beat though.
I think about, like you said, the Suns and how well-oiled machine they are. Monty Williams, he was kind of on the list.
He was right there.
Mm-hmm.
Anti-Lou.
He took his team, to the finals. And we're over here talking about, who's about to replace Frank Vogel because this didn't work out. Now, one is an NBA champion, but it just goes to show how long you let something marinate to see if it tastes good or not when it's all said and done. So
that's true.
I think that's good. I think that wraps us up today, folks. Oh, real quick, give me the prediction. Are the Lakers finishing the road trip 4-2? Kwame?
No.
Wow. Omar?
Wow.
I think I'm sticking to the 3-3 agenda.
I'll be optimistic and say they finish 4-2 because that triple overtime. I hope that triple overtime loss to the Kings the other night is sour. But
no, I ain't hoping for nothing no more, Omar. I ain't doing no signs of life type stuff. I ain't taking another post-game interview and saying that this is positive momentum. We throwing all of those considerations, putting them in a box and putting a big-ass lock on it until the Lakers win 5 out of 6 or 7 out of 10. And that might never happen. But you know what? If you're going to play like a 500 ball club, I'm not going to say anything is a sign of good things to come. That's the end of the podcast. You guys enjoy yourselves.
Wait, so what's your prediction?
No, they'll win. They'll win.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, that was a gut punch. I think it's going to take, again, another razzle-dazzle full of excitement and despair for our Los Angeles Lakers. But literally the best thing to predict right now is you win one, you lose one. You win one, you lose one. You look good, you look like shit. You look like shit, you look good. That's our 2021-2022 Los Angeles Lakers until proven otherwise. So I'm going to go check out a Bulls game tonight, fellas. I'm going to go take my nephew to go see Bulls versus Hornets. Get me a LaMelo ball in.
That's going to be awesome.
I'm going to try to catch LeVar, try to get a flick up with LeVar since he got to see both his sons in the UC. You see, he just came out and said he's lobbying the Bulls leadership to try to get all 3 of his sons in Chicago. And I'm just like, LeVar, you have to stop this, bro. Like, LaMelo is super good where he's at. Like, and now you just probably pissed off the people over there. Like, and maybe that's
Jordan.
Yeah, I guess I'm not gonna question LeVar.
If anything, they should just go to the Hornets. All you gotta do is get Lonzo because
that's already secured in Chicago.
There it is. Yeah.
But LiAngelo's in their G League circuit. You damn near got it. You got 2 of them basically on one
that's
team.
fair.
You just got to pry Lonzo loose.
You make a good point. I'll make sure to tell him that. I'll tell him you said that.
Appreciate it.
All right, y'all. We will see you guys next week. Make sure to tune in to our post-game spaces after most Lakers games. Let your voice be heard. If you want to make it onto the Late Night Lake Show as a guest appearance, make sure you jump into those post-game spaces hosted by Guru and the Late Night Lake Show family. Make sure you're just following the brand on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. Late Night Lake Show, Late Night Lakers. Any Late Night Laker affiliate, you let us know. There's a lot of perpetrators out there. I did see there was like a Lakers After Dark, and I was like, oh, that's not close to the brim. You know what I'm saying? So, all good, man. Your imitation, highest form of respect. So y'all enjoy your week. Pray for our Lakers. Make sure you got a drink handy. For Kwame and Omar, it's Ricky. Peace.